Hey guys, welcome to Real Talk. My name is Rahel, and I'm joined today by Separatina and Jeremy. We're going to be
Yeah.
speaking on the topic of passion. But before we begin, I'm just going to say a quick word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray that you may guide our conversation, Lord, and may our words be not ours but yours. So I pray in your name, Amen.
Amen.
All right, so passion. It's a big word, and it kind of guides almost everything that we do, from our past to our present to our future. um, Passion is in everything, or at least we want it to be everything. But I'm curious, and I want to pose this question to all of you. What has been, your journey with passion, and how have you traveled with your passions? Has it changed? Has it stayed the same? Let's start with you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Passion, it's always been something that has driven me to do things, especially in leadership. Passion has always been right there. And it's been something that's prompted me to sometimes step out in faith and do things that I normally wouldn't do. Just because I felt that passion sort of burning and wanted to move forward on it. So it definitely has gotten me to do a lot of good things, but also sometimes it's caused me to rush some things at times, to move forward too soon, and go ahead of other people as well. So yeah, I've had both a mixed bag when it comes to passion.
How about you, Sepro?
Yeah, so yeah, passion has actually been something that's it's a very interesting topic for me. So I guess like before I grew in my relationship with God, I obviously didn't have like I guess the right passions. So for me, in my journey, I kind of like had to yeah, I guess like it was just a bit of a discovery. Like, okay, like the more I got to know, kind of like the more I got to know God, then I guess that's where my true passions came out. Like,
Mm.
in times where I was like unemployed, I was like, okay, like that's kind of where like creativity came. Like, oh, what can I do? And then that's where my passions kind of developed. I guess for God and for people. Like, so yeah, that's kind of been my experience of passion. Yeah, it's
Mm,
definitely been a journey. So yeah.
mm.
Mm.
And it's interesting what you said there. Like, God was kind of at the center of your passion. When it was centered in God, it was kind of at its best. Can you
Mm.
like share more on that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, okay, so yeah, I guess my passion was at its highest. I guess because like when God is involved with your passions, it like your life becomes more like satisfying. Like because like with God, it like my passions obviously involved like serving others. Like it
Mm,
wasn't about myself. And that's what made my passions like more fulfilling and satisfying for me.
mm,
Because obviously, if it's about yourself, like you'll just be more and more anxious, like to just, you know what I mean? Like it just won't
mm,
be enough. Like you'll be so insecure, and experience all those negative things. But like for me, like for example, like my passion to help others, like just small, like at home. If I'm serving others, helping them, I'm like, oh, it's like it's growing those good fruits. But yeah,
mm,
I guess if it was more self-centered, like then um yeah, it wouldn't be as satisfying. So yeah, that's why when God is in my passions, I actually I actually feel a lot better and I'm
mm.
more happy. So yeah, how about you guys? Like, what's your experience with your passions with God?
Mm. Yeah, I can really relate to what you said. Kind of just God being in it made it better. Um, I
Mm.
was so interesting. I feel like I had that whole thing about running away from my passions, um, which is so
Mm.
weird because I almost convinced myself my passion was something else. So
Yeah.
before I was in ministry, I was studying counseling. So I was studying to be a counselor, which is a noble thing in of itself. It's very necessary. There are a lot of counselors needed in the world, but
Mm.
Mm,
man, so it was so weird. Like I was studying this thing, and in my final year, I was like applying everything I was learning. So I was learning about family systems, about couples therapy, about like therapy with young people, and I was applying all these things I was learning to the way I would operate in ministry. So kind of church life and all these kind of things, and I didn't notice that. It was so weird. But then when it clicked, and I kind of had to be like, man, like, okay, this is where my passions are, and this is how God is kind of leading me through this path. But like, I didn't want to take that step, but I did. I eventually did. And when I did, what I found out is they're a little bit, like, as you said, separate, like anxiety and stress. I don't know what it was, but it felt like a burden was kind of like off my shoulders, and that I was like in the place where I was meant to be. So I don't know what it is, because like in the same way, like I'm passionate about counseling. I'm passionate about that time spent with other people, that like, a therapeutic conversation. I'm passionate about that. But it's so funny because God was in that, but he wasn't at the center of that. He had a plan in that, but he said, as much as there is for you to learn in this is not my end goal for you, which is so interesting.
I think that's really good, because I think about this verse. I think it's Psalms 37, and it says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." And it's like as you seek Him, as you seek intimacy with Him, like He gives you the desires in your heart that you didn't realize. But it makes me like ask the question: is passion something that comes first and then we act on it, or is it something that we just faithfully journey through even when we don't feel the passion, and then the passion comes from that? Like, is passion first or is passion later?
I definitely think that passion comes later, because I feel like it has to be based on something. Like,
Okay.
I don't know, it has to be based on some type of, I don't know, the reason. Like, there's supposed to be like a reasoning behind that, like, or a value of yours. Like, sometimes you won't know that you value something until, I don't know, something happens, and then you're like, oh, I'm really passionate about this. Like, you know what I mean? It's literally something from your heart. Like, What did you guys think?
No, I agree. Yeah. It's so funny because passion can lead, but it can also follow. It can be at the center, but it can also be found later. It's so hard because, for us today, I think that even with myself, I can just be like, I won't put myself 100% into something until I have passion for it. But then, like, even at the beginning, if I'm not passionate about something, but I start to see something happening, I start to see either the fruits or value, and then that passion comes later. Then I'm 100% in, and it's so funny because, like, usually my first instinct is to be like, okay, like, I'm not feeling this. Let me step back. Let me step out. But it's so funny because as I journey with something, what ends up happening is that, like, the passion can actually be stronger than if it started with it, because I've actually seen it for myself. I've seen the fruits, I've seen the results. Whereas if I have the passion at the start, I can put all the work in, but then, like, it kind of dissipates because I see that something I had so much energy for isn't as working as well as I wanted to be. I wanted it to be. And I think that's the key difference. Like, sometimes it's not about me and it's not about my passion, but God puts us in places where he knows, like, we're not used to, we're not comfortable with, but that eventually, like, it'll just be everything, it'll be the best part of us.
Yeah. Something I've realized about passion is that passion isn't always permanent. It is something that changes as time goes on. Since passion is, like, very largely, I feel like, a feeling. It comes and goes. Like, sometimes I'm feeling passionate when it comes to leadership and ministry, and then other times I don't. And I feel like passionate can be a very powerful thing when there is passion within you, and it can cause you to do things. Like, for example, Jesus, when he was cleansing the temple, like passion came upon him. And I think John's 2 verse 17 even says that. It says, then his disciples remember this prophecy from the scriptures: passion for God's house will consume me. So passion had consumed Jesus, and it moved him to do something pretty outrageous. And in the same way, I think that's happened for me at times. Like, passion has come upon me and it's consumed me, and I've done something that I wouldn't normally do. But sometimes the times where passion isn't always there, and I just need to be faithful even when I don't feel it. I think it's sort of a little bit like, maybe an analogy might be surfing. Sometimes the waves come and you enjoy them and you ride them, but other times it's just waiting. Other times it's just trying to do your best and being faithful. And I think that a lot of people, especially I think in our generation, we often will, as you said, Rahel, only do things when we feel passionate for it, and then that we'd never do that because the passion might never come. But sometimes we need to just be faithful, just step out and trust that, the passion might come later, and enjoy the passion while it lasts, but know that it's not always permanent. It's not always going to be there.
I don't know if you guys have seen on the news, but obviously Will Smith, a greatly passionate man, we'll say, a man with a lot of passion. Because we're always so led by passion and so led by our emotions. Like, has passion ever led you guys in the wrong way, or has it ever been placed in the wrong thing, and I guess have had it like that negative effect?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of times in different situations. I would say, I'll use one example. I would say, I'll use my relationship with God. I think it's good to be passionate. You feel a relationship with God, but I remember before, say 2019, for example, I guess I was so passionate. I wanted to know God so much that I spent most of my time, my days, just trying to get to know God. But the thing is, because I was so passionate about that, I neglected the other areas of my life. For example, taking care of myself, or actually loving others, the doing part. You know what I mean? So I feel like passion can be bad when you're intemperate, you're not being temperate in other areas. I guess in that way it can be bad. But I mean, it's good to obviously be passionate about God, but I guess when you're not neglecting the other parts, then it can be bad.
Yeah, for sure. I guess for me, there have been times where I have been so passionate that it's become obsessive. I feel like I can be a very obsessive type at times, and sometimes in moving with that that feeling of passion and obsession, even though it was a good thing, maybe it's for example, in the context of leadership, moving forward on the passion that I feel, and just being super fired up about it. But then I realized, there's a team as well who isn't quite there yet, and then they just get sort of left behind because I'm just going off on a whim. And I think sometimes it's also it's important to regulate your passion, or tailor your passion, and make sure that it's channeled in the right places and in the right directions, and constantly check it with other people as well, and make sure when you're in a team, making sure that passion is aligned in a sense. You're both on the same page, and you're both kind of there. Otherwise, if you just move forward too quickly on the passion in the context of leading a team, then I think that the team will almost feel just left behind. So that's a circumstance where passion has got the worst of me. So
it's so funny because I think someone who was almost a mentor in my life kind of told me, you have a heart, Rahel, and you have a very big heart. It's always pumping, but you also have a brain. And sometimes you got to reel back the heart and let the brain do its work. Because so many times I've been so passionate about something and I've sent it but it hasn't worked out. And when I think about it rationally, it's just like, yeah, like I've gotten hurt by this. This has gone wrong. But like if I have just given it, and if I had just used my brain, for example, it would have worked out. And I think a big thing that presents itself is relationships. We're such emotional people, and we connect with each other through emotions. And oftentimes when something happens, when something disruptive happens, our first instinct is an emotional instinct. And that almost like encourages an emotional reaction. I'm sure like you guys kind of can relate a bit. But it's almost putting a hold on that. And that's not saying we are removing the passion away from that, but we're actually like giving it a road to go through, or giving it a direction. You can't really make it somewhere if you don't have a direction you're heading in. Sometimes if I don't know where I'm going, I just pop a quick, hey Siri, take me to this place, or kind of just activated my Siri, kind of just, like punch it in the GPS. And I think that's the same thing. Like, I'm still going to drive there. I'm still going to move towards there.
Yeah.
But I need to give myself a little bit of direction.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to, it's like, I guess, kind of like shooting a gun, you build up, the pressure builds up and everything, but you got to point that gun in the right direction. Otherwise it can be destructive. And I feel like passion can be like that at times. And if you don't focus the passion in the right places, then it can actually do not so good. So
There's a quote I actually want to bring up now, and it's by a theologian, Soren Kierkegaard. I don't know if you've heard him, German guy. And he says this. He says, "Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further." So I reflected on that quote last week. Faith is the highest passion in a human being, and almost back to what Sepro was saying. Like when God is in our passion, He kind of takes it further. But I wanted to reflect over it, just because connecting passion with faith, like obviously spirituality is such a personal thing to so many people. But that thing, like, I kind of want to hear your thoughts. Like, faith is the highest passion in a human being. Have you experienced that, where like you reflect over it? Because I have. Like, when I reflect over it, I'm like, at the end of the day, I have never been more passionate about anything than when I have been passionate about God, about my worship, about like that spiritual space.
No, I would agree, because I've been passionate about a lot of other things. I've been passionate about sport. I've been passionate about music. I've been passionate about various different hobbies and everything. But all of those things seem to die down. It's a phase, for instance. But I think with God, that has been something that has lasted quite permanently. And when I say that, I can't say that the passion is always there as well. I can't say that I feel passionate about it all the time, although sometimes I do. And sometimes I say when I'm in worship and I'm worshiping and singing, like sometimes I'll need to almost like force it in a sense, like say, all right, look, I'm not feeling it, but I'm just gonna worship anyway, or I'm just gonna praise anyway. And even if I'm not feeling it, because I think, for example, it's a bit like a relationship. In a relationship, you're not always going to feel passionate about that person. And I mean, I'm not exactly experiencing this right now, but it's like not all dates are going to be like crazy, fancy, expensive, like dress up, really nice dates. Sometimes it's just going to be like Macca's drive-through, and you got to be
hey,
okay.
That's expensive for me, mate. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, I thought you're like dirt poor. Maybe for you, it's just I don't even know what's
Just
just
a little walk.
expensive now.
Because
So
fuel prices right now.
oh yeah, for sure. I had $1 large fries today actually, and that was pretty good. It was a good deal. So maybe you can take out your significant other tonight with that.
Hey man, I might just
Yeah, but like that's what it's not always going to be very butterflies, feely, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think true passion is also functioning on when you don't feel it as well, as if you are feeling it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you guys. Yeah, faith is definitely like the highest form of passion. I didn't think about it like that, but that's so true because it's literally your whole life and your whole being. Like that's it's like you know how like you have certain specific passions for certain areas, but faith is like your everything. It
Yeah.
involves your whole life. It like like when we entered this relationship with God, like it's changing us like every area. So I guess that's why that's why it would be the highest form of passion because it will move you make changes and that would affect your relationships, yourself, your future, your past. Like you can't change your past, but it does really change how you think about it.
Yeah.
So passion, I agree.
Definitely. And I think it's not just I don't think it's just like our faith in Jesus and being passionate about that, but we can also look at it from the other angle as well and see Jesus's passion for us. Like I think the scripture talks about for the joy set before him, he endured the cross and everything. And yeah, like that's like the heart of Jesus. He was so passionate that it caused him to pursue us and caused him to take a risk on us, even though it might leave him heartbroken. He decided to take that step out anyway, and he moved on that passion. And I think passion is not something that is foreign to God. And in fact, the reason why we have passion is because we have a God who is passionate and we're created in his image. Therefore, we experience passion. So, yeah, I think that we can take the example of Jesus. It's not just an affectionate passion that is off and on as well, but it's a permanent passion as well. Like, the passion that Jesus has caused him to go to the cross and make a covenant with us, which means like it's legal, it's binding, and he wants to have a relationship with us forever. So it's like it's affectionate and passionate, but it's also permanent and lasting as well.
No, I love that thought. And I guess we've kind of all like said a little bit about this, but just the whole like the way that passion fluctuates. You know, it's always there's a season of high passion and a season of low passion, a season of no passion sometimes. And it's so funny because I feel like when we think about faith, and especially with that quote, you know, faith is the highest passion within a human being, we feel like when it comes to spirituality, our passion must always be on fire. Like we must always be switched on. We must always be, you know, lit. You know, we must always have that high operating passion. But is it realistic? And kind of just getting like my final my thoughts and almost to close it off is that it's so interesting because to me faith and passion especially is a journey. I can't say in every moment of my life I have always been on fire for God, as much as I'd like to say I was. There have been times when I have like fallen flat, and so has my relationship with God fallen flat. For example, the lockdowns really did a number on kind of like my faith journey because I'm really like an insightful person when it comes to being in community. Like my faith is in the highest when I'm doing it around people with people, and there's like I can still upkeep that myself, but it's just not as high as it could be.
For sure.
You know, so like, is it realistic to think our like faith should always be on fire, or can we actually travel through these seasons? You know?
Well, realistically, as humans, like we're not always gonna be on a high. Like if you just look at the people in the Bible, for example, they weren't always on highs. Like one time when God done something in their life, like Elijah, he was on that high, but obviously after that battle, like he was the low, like he was so low, so like, but obviously like God got him through. It was like the truth of who God was. It's his love that kind of like continued to carry him on. So like realistically, yeah, we won't always have that high, but we'll always have like the reason or the why or the truth that will get us through it. There's a quote that someone said, when the going gets tough, the truth gets going. So
Wow.
it's not anything else that gets going but the truth. So like, yeah, I guess your reason for or what you care about should be strong enough to last you through those tough times. Like if it's something worth having a passion for.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think passion is not so much like true godly passion is not an on and off feeling so much. But it's more just walking in faithfulness in the purpose that God's called you to. And yeah, listening to him and following his leading regardless of the way that you are feeling. And yeah, at times it might feel like, yeah, just Macca's dates, but other times it's going to be good as well. Other times it's going to be fun and affectionate and enjoyable. And yeah, you enjoy both of those times, and you know that like God is teaching you through both of those times, as it is a journey. Passion is a journey, as you were saying. Oh yeah.
No, that's so cool. This has been a really real talk. It's so interesting. I guess like like a final thought we can say about passion is that at the end of the day, our passion is not placed in like something solid or something material, but it's in a relationship. We're passionate about someone we are encouraged to know, someone who is also passionate about us. So it's not as if our passion goes unanswered, and as in every relationship, there's time spent. There's some rough patches. Usually, I find the rough patches come on my side when I go through my tough circumstances. But I just love the thought that God still walks with us through those times. He's still there for us, and what a beautiful thought to think that our passion is not left unanswered. Our call is not left unanswered. We are here. We are able to be passionate about someone who is passionate about us.
That's good.
And what a beautiful beautiful thought. So yeah, no, that's been real talk. Thanks for joining, Jeremy. Thanks for joining, Sepro. I know we've all had some beautiful insights, and I guess I encourage you who are watching, if you feel inspired to share your journey with passion, let us know what you've been through, what you're going through. And if there's any way, we can pray over you, we would love to. But thank you so much for joining us. This has been Real Talk. And tune in next time for another episode. Bye.
Bye.